and Jon.
And welcome to another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. Today, if you are watching us on video, you know something's a little weird, something's a little bit off. Today, we are not in the office. We have been subjected to, some might call it termination, some might call it, no, I'm kidding. Jon and I are unfortunately both under quarantine right now. So we decided we weren't going to let anything stop us from releasing another episode for you guys. So we're both set up at home here doing some recording for the podcast, and we're going to go through it like normal, but our audio may not be as perfect. Video is obviously a little bit different, but bear with us because we still got some good topics to get through today.
Okay, so before we get into all of that, quick story time. Austin and I set up this laptop and realized that the Bluetooth headphones I was going to use weren't hooking up to the laptop, though I bet you they would work now. I bet you they would work now. Anyway, so I ran back or drove to work, had Patrick throw me my over-the-ear headphones that I know will hook up with this, and the microphone that we use for some things. It's a Yeti Nano. Hook up the over-the-ear microphones or headphones, and Austin immediately starts laughing, and he goes, "Yeah, it sounds better with nothing." So I was like, all right, well, all is not lost. Obviously, the Yeti will sound better than just like the regular speakers. Nope. It was better with nothing. Now, let's add a little bit of insult to injury. As I'm getting out of the car at work, my headphone case drops, and you'll notice that there's only one headphone in there now. Didn't remember if I had left one here, but no. It's somewhere in the parking lot at work, so when I'm done here, I will drive back there. I'll wait till after 5, till everyone's gone, and go find that. I'm also quarantined in my basement because my wife absolutely cannot get sick. She's got a shutdown for her plant coming, and she cannot miss that. So until we know for sure, I am quarantined in the basement with these two thugs, making sure I do everything they want, take them out to go to the bathroom at all times. So not a great start or end to the day. So to fix that, here is a bottle of Old Forester that I won from a Pass It On Outdoor Mentor raffle, which is the only thing that I've ever won from any of those raffles. So I'm going to have a glass. Try to get something back from this day. I also told Austin earlier that I was getting a little bit concerned because I don't think I have it. Austin doesn't think he has it, but I was getting some muscle soreness. But I did do legs 2 days in a row, and that is not common for me, so I'm sure it's just my legs rebelling, telling me that I'm 42, not 24 anymore. All right, let's get a sip.
If you drink your whiskey, I'll drink my Liquid Death.
What is Liquid Death? Oh, is that an energy drink?
No, it's actually just water. Oh. It's literally plain water.
That's good branding.
Yeah, it looks good. I bought that for ATV trip I went on a couple weeks ago, because when you're riding on the ATV and you got packs of gear and stuff, bottles of water tend to burst and you end up with water everywhere. So pack aluminum cans. So it just survives the bouncing around on the ATV.
I remember you showed me the first year that I was working there that I knew you went. You showed me a picture of some Bud Light lime cans that were stacked, and they jostled around so much that all of the green had basically come off them. That it was like a faint green, but it was basically just like a metal can.
Yeah, so you know when you've had good riding, when you open up the cooler and there's no color left on the cans. They're all just beat to heck. That's when you know you've been in some good riding for sure.
I'm shocked that your old man's spine survives all that.
Actually, yeah, with as many back problems as I've had over the past almost 9 months now, it actually did better for my back. I ended up feeling better after the trip than when I
Oh,
started. I think it's because while you're riding, like you're using so many core muscles moving back and forth and staying, I mean, balanced. You're on a four-wheeler, but I mean, you're still balancing
sure.
yourself and trying and moving the four-wheeler around. That I think it just helped to build up some extra core strength to help with my
Yeah,
back. So
that could make sense for sure.
yeah.
All right, you want to get on to meat matters?
Yeah, sure. So, meat matters for the day. This first one. I really like this article. It's something we've talked about on definitely multiple podcasts, but one that was fairly recent here about USDA funding for meat processors across the country. But I got a message from T. Williams on Meatgistics with a new article because the USDA just came out with some new recommendations. My little USDA guy here, for those of you watching video, they came direct from this guy. So we'll let him read the story to us. No, I'm kidding, but basically the USDA announced that they have another $100 million in loan guarantees that they're about to hand out for increasing meat capacity. This story also comes from meatpoultry.com. Really, really good article overall. But some of the claims that the USDA is making through it is that it's going to deliver opportunities for fairer prices, which is one thing we've talked about over and over. That COVID-19 revealed some vulnerabilities in the food system, which I can hands down agree with. We saw that for sure play out. It's supposed to help enhance competition, create some economic opportunity across agriculture and food supply chains, and the money for it's coming out of the American Rescue Plan Act. And the USDA has already announced like $150 million for small and very small meat processors. $55 million of that has already been used up since July. So if you are a small or very small processor out there, there's still another 100 million out in that one too. So I definitely encourage anybody out there that is a small or very small commercial processor to look that up and see what you can do to get an application in, because there's still $100 million left for you guys to increase plant capacity, buy new equipment, expand your plant, do whatever you need there. Then it says that the agency has also received around 250 applications for $100 million in grants for meat and poultry facilities. That I wasn't quite expecting that. I was expecting that number of applications to be a lot higher, because if you divide out 250 over 100 million, that's a lot. That's a lot of money per application. So they're definitely handing out large sums of money to people.
Which I don't know if that's a great thing or I mean, it's probably a good thing in that it's people wanting to open a new plant or do a massive expansion onto a existing plant. What I hope it isn't, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, is I hope it's not somehow Tyson or one of those companies through some subsidiary getting more of this money. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I think it's probably both, because they have they have that special fund just for small and very small processors, and then they have, I think, another 100 million just for those bigger facilities. So I'm going to say that it's probably those 250 applications are probably just from the large to very large meat plants out there. I don't know for sure. I'm just guessing, but
now what was the name of the guy who did the Super Size Me documentary? I can't think of what it was.
I don't remember his name.
But he did a second one, and basically it turned out he wanted to start raising chickens or see what it was like raising chickens to sell to, I think it was Tyson. So Tyson uses smaller farms, I say smaller, they're not tiny by any means, and then buys their chickens from them. So I'm wondering, could even those smaller things still be in that pipeline? Probably. It's possible.
Could be. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have John G do a little bit of legwork there. Did not to get too far off topic, but did you see his post on labeling?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember much about it. I know I looked at it, but briefly.
Okay. So he did a good job. He went to a local store, talked to the butcher there about what the labeling restrictions are as far as they understand it. They still have the old label on it, but they are getting their new ones. So for anyone who's interested, Dillon's, all of the beef that they sell is raised in the U.S. and it will be compliant with whatever changes they make. Their labeling will still say, product of the USA, because all of their beef is grown here. So
yeah, cool country of origin labeling. Yep. That I remember. Shoot, that was probably 15 years ago. The last time I remember a big deal about that.
No, we talked about it on an early podcast.
Oh, we did?
Probably like close to. How long have we been doing this now?
Podcasts 2 years.
2 years?
I don't know. At least a year.
Definitely a year. No problem. But 2?
I think it's close to 2. We probably started towards the very beginning of COVID. It's probably
I thought it was just before COVID. I'm sure this is just fascinating listening to right now, but I'm going to end the questioning. I will go back to our earliest post with episode number 1 being May 10th, 2020. So a year and a half-ish.
I see May 6th. I don't know how you got the 10th.
Because it's the date the post was? Kicking off Meatgistics episode 1?
Yeah, Google Podcasts, it says May 6th.
So we waited 4 days to post it.
Yeah.
We par for the course for my department. Oh, yeah. Let's not capitalize on, the initial surge. Let's wait a little bit.
We probably posted it, but no one knew it was out there, obviously, until we said something to people. So we probably posted it, make sure everything was good.
That's what it was. We had they told us to wait until it actually populated. Okay, so we're off the hook.
Okay. I mean, that's all I got about there. You got anything else you want to add, or should we jump to the next one? Okay. Kind of switching things up and around on Meat Matters today. I pulled up a few articles from Meatgistics.
And I love this one. Do you know who Dr. Payne is?
No, I don't.
You don't know. I do.
Well, now I got to look before I...
It is my brother from possibly the same mother. I don't know. Claude Tremblay, who has been a great addition to Meatgistics. He has been posting a lot of good content. Guy obviously knows a lot about food. He is a Canadian who is an expat. He is down in the Louisiana area, I believe. He posted something the other day about shrimp that just made me very, very jealous about buying them right off the boats as they come in. For those of you not in the Kansas area, you won't know this, but we don't get a lot of fresh seafood. So anytime I hear about that, I get pretty jealous. Also, I have a quick complaint. My camera is down at the bottom right by the keyboard. So if I go down just a little bit, that's my keyboard. It's the only laptop ever to not have it up there. I've never seen it before. It creates all sorts of interesting issues. But anyways, so...
Yeah, I didn't like it. That's one of the Dell XPSs, and I don't like that about those. Everything else about those laptops is awesome, but the webcam is stupid.
I never know where to look. Sometimes I look at you, sometimes I look at that. But does it record the video on these too? Oh, yeah. So Patrick can put them side by side and actually just put it on YouTube. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
So Dr. Payne, John's brother from another or the same mother, had a post about using a sausage stuffer, and when the piston gets to the bottom, the elbow and the output from the stuffer, you always end up with some meat left over. He said he's a physical therapist, and so he was trying to figure out something reusable and an alternative to put in there. So what he uses as a physical therapist is stress balls. So the stress balls that he got, they look super flexible, more than I was
Yeah.
thinking. But he said he bought like a 6-pack of them, and I think he sounded like he used like 3 of them. But he put it in the bottom of the stuffer, cranked the piston back down, raised it up, put 2 more in, cranked it down, and used that to like stuff those little stress balls down into the elbow, and it looks like maybe even partially into the stuffing tube to help get the meat out. But I thought that was cool. That was
Oh, that's
brilliant.
absolute. That might be. It's a top 5 meat hack submitted by a Meatgistics user for sure. I mean, if you don't think that I'm on Amazon as soon as we're off this, ordering some of those stress balls, yeah, I mean, you don't know me that well. We've used bread before. That worked well, but not amazingly. I think this is a far better way to get that little bit out. Now, there's a downside to this. I really like taking that meat and making a patty out of it. It'll give a little bit different of a flavor. It's not the exact same because we're talking about either doing it in like an oven or on some sort of stovetop with a pan. So it's a little bit different. You get some more Maillard reaction, a little bit caramelization on the outside. But I think I would rather have either the snack stick or the sausage instead of that extra patty. So this is an absolutely great idea. We will do videos, social media stuff on how to do this and give him full credit for sure.
Yeah, he asked if we would find a product like that and start carrying it and name it after him. So we'll see.
Oh, easily, we could call it the Trembly. That makes perfect sense. And then years down, when this becomes standard in the industry, everyone will assume it's me and not him. So the correct person will get credit. Good job, Claude. That's awesome.
So on to the next thing from Meatgistics. This one, unfortunately, is Jon's post, but I will give him props. I enjoyed reading through it and everybody's responses, and I did have to add my own comment in there, which no one really responded to, and I was really kind of. Jon had a post about getting ready for the apocalypse and what he's been doing lately to kind of stock up on things, and whether you want to call it a survival kit or a go bag or your emergency prep stuff. Everybody's got different names for it. Like what people are doing. The one thing I gotta scroll down to my comment here. The one thing Jon left out, that departing contestant, he spoke up and said something about cigars, and I definitely you better have some nicotine something in there if it's the end of the world. But then trauma packs instead of just having first aid kits. I like keeping like trauma packs on hand because I'm worried. Like I take my go bag on our ATV trips, and I'm worried somebody's gonna fall off the ATV, crack their head open on a rock. So like a trauma pack to keep somebody who's like bleeding out from dying.
So
for Jon,
what's the difference there? What's in a trauma pack?
I don't know what it actually is, but it's like the main thing to it is some sort of cloth device thing with stuff inside it that when you press it on a wound, it will just stop the bleeding.
Okay.
I don't know what the stuff is that's in it, but it's some sort of clotting agent.
Yeah, they were working on at one point a applicator that would basically push something into the wound. It was for gunshot wounds. That basically would like seal it off, but also it would force clotting inside. And I know they were using that at least for a while in the military. I don't know if they still are. But if it had something like that, yeah, absolutely worth getting. Machete was a great one, somebody said. But out of all the posts on this, and there have been plenty, my favorite was from GWG8541, who says, this post is starting to look interesting. He goes on a little bit, talking about his time as a commander, talking to a specific person. So I'll just read quickly from here. He goes, then he asked if they had done any prepping. He came to Ray, who was a Marine, and said, Ray, I bet you have a ton of guns and ammo ready to go. Ray calmly replied, not really. I own 2 rifles for hunting and a handgun. The sergeant, kind of sarcastic, said he was shocked and Ray wasn't ready for the big one. After hearing about how prepared Sergeant claimed he was, Ray said, I don't need anything else. If it gets that bad, I'm coming to your house and I'll kill you and take your S. So somewhat joking, but also not. I just bought another 1,000 rounds of 9mm. So, yeah. I mean, if things do get to that level, there'll be nothing as valuable as ammunition and clean water.
Yeah. Clean water. That's the big one. People have issues over water before anything else, but then it will eventually come to food. So those of us that are apt outdoors people know how to go hunting and then prepare our own food. I think we would be the best off there.
Yeah. Do you want to use that to jump into the other one?
Oh yeah. So there was another news story that I came across. It was talking about kind of the start to COVID, how it maybe started, and its title was "Pandemic Might Get People to Drop Wild Meat from the Menu." But the question in there was basically there are some people that say that COVID originated by microbes transferring from wild animals to humans, and that may be a big enough belief amongst people out there that they are expecting to see wild game consumption drop drastically. So my biggest question is, what does everybody else think? Are you planning on hunting more this year? Hunting less this year? Are you eating more wild game, less wild game? My own personal opinion is it's whatever. I mean, I don't even if. Did we talk about that kind of in the last episode with CWD?
Yep, we touched on it.
I found COVID antibodies in deer and stuff, but I mean, to me, I'm like, I'm going to cook whatever I eat, so I'm not really concerned about it. But I am interested to know, is everyone else, what's their pattern been like over the past year, and what is your plan for this year? Are you hunting more, hunting less, eating more wild game, eating less wild game? So
I would imagine that I know I think I only went hunting once last year. If I even got out, I don't think I got out at all. Last year was insane. So go back to 2 years ago, I think I went once. I know I have more planned this year, so that will, for me at least, be an absolute increase. And part of the reason I'm wanting to do that is to fill up that freezer. I want enough meat to make sure that my wife, myself, and my neighbors are going to be okay no matter what comes down the tube. So, yeah, I don't know. I know you have other ones, but that is somewhat of a good segue into one of the ones that I put in there. So I'll just quickly talk about it. There shouldn't be too much on this, but there's an article in the New York Times saying Britain's Christmas lament, meat shortages and delivery days. They are already predicting that in the UK, they are not going to have enough meat. Roasts, all sorts of turkeys, fowls. I guess they do a lot of goose over there. The only good thing to do with goose is make sausage from it, in my opinion. But so this is coming. There are going to be shortages. Our food supply chain has done an amazing job up to this point. But you keep tossing on little, like onesie, twosies, little problems. And eventually we're going to have bigger problems than we had at the beginning of COVID. And I think most of the people who listen to this podcast, a lot of the people who are on Meatgistics kind of know that and are preparing for it. So I would just say continue to do that. And what's the problem? You're going to have too much meat in your freezer. Don't go to the grocery store for a couple of months, whatever. But yeah, so it is starting to become apparent to people who aren't as involved in the industry as we are. And if they're waking up to it, there's got to be warning signs that they're seeing that we might not be privy to.
Yeah. I think and I hope overall, like we see some shortages here, there. I don't think there's going to be anything that's so major that it's overall an issue to get anything. Um, there's enough alternatives out there to different things, but yeah, come holiday time, like uh, if everybody's used to eating a Christmas ham and a Thanksgiving turkey, uh, maybe we run into an issue where there's not as many turkeys. For everybody to have their normal Thanksgiving turkey, and it'll be something where, well, okay, this year we're going to do prime rib, or we're going to do chicken, or we're going to do something else. I think there's enough of everything, but certain bits and pieces may be a little short.
And so, in my opinion, if that's what it goes to, I would say that's another stress test passed. The fact that you might not find the exact cut you want is not to be expected, but that's okay. It's if we get to the point where there is no beef or, very, very limited cuts of beef, that's when I think people will really start to panic.
Yeah. What else you got?
Oh, you don't have, I thought you had another one.
Oh, I can go back to another one. So my next one, there was an article on Meatgistics, or a topic about freezer purge from Papa Sop. That just got me thinking, because I was talking to my brother Dylan, who's our VP of sales, and his freezer went out on him. He's not really sure when. He opened up his freezer and everything was soft. He had like an eye of round sitting in there that it was soft. It was fully defrosted. Wait. Now he said
the freezer behind Taylor's office or one at home?
One at home. Okay. Yeah. So he said it was still cold enough. It was still as cold as the fridge, so he didn't need to throw anything away there. He ended up throwing a bunch of stuff from his freezer away, but he's like, I kept all the meat. Didn't throw any of the meat away, but all this other stuff, he's like, we had frozen veggies and this, some individual serve things. He's like, we're like, forget it, we'll throw it all away. But that just got me thinking about freezer stuff in general. How many people out there end up finding something stuck in the back of their freezer and then go, should I make something out of this, or do you just throw it away? Because in my mind, I'm going to take Dylan's perspective and say, it's meat. I'm still going to eat it, but I know I need to go through my freezer right now because I have some stuff in there. I moved into the house I'm in like a year and 9 months ago, give or take, and I still have some meat in there that I pulled over from my other house that I need to go through and prioritize and do something with. But I'm sure I'm not the only one with the problem there.
No, you're definitely not the only one with the problem there. And let me ask you a question. What is the absolute max? If something's vacuum sealed and it stays well vacuum sealed, sits in the freezer the whole time, that you'll leave a piece of uncooked meat in there for? Like whole muscle cut.
I mean, in my opinion, I'd leave it in there until I wanted to eat it. If I found it 5 years later, as long as it's not freezer burned to an extent that it's just not going to be palatable at all, I'd still eat it. There's nothing that's going to be wrong with it. It maybe isn't going to taste as good because you're probably going to eat, no matter how you package it, you're probably going to have freezer burn at that point. But if it was a whole muscle cut, to be honest, I'd probably just trim around it and eat the middle of it.
So my experience with that, at least, is the oldest piece of meat I've eaten, and it was a whole muscle cut. It was a roast, was vacuum packed well, in one freezer the entire time, but it was 7 years. Definitely a degradation in texture. I didn't honestly notice too much of a breakdown in taste or flavor. Texture was off for sure, especially on the outside. But all in all, I thought like way better than kind of what we expected. We didn't do it as a joke, but we kind of did do it as an experiment. So when I
Yeah.
see all these things out there, like, oh, anything that's not going to be eaten within a year, should be thrown out. What? What are you talking about? Like, it's the same thing with Excalibur seasonings or any seasoning. 2 years is the shelf life, but all that happens is you lose a little bit of the potency. It's not like the seasoning goes bad. As long as the meat is properly cared for and frozen, it's still good.
Yeah, so thinking of that in Excalibur specifically, they had a seasoning. It was actually a marinade that was like one of my all-time favorites. It was before you ever
Is it
worked
the
for us that
butter?
it you
Oh,
no Southwestern
oh,
marinade.
okay.
It was when they still did glass bottles on marinades, which was before we moved into the building we're in, which was 2011. So it's at least 10 years old. I'm going to say it was a couple years before that. It's probably 12 years ago. Um, I took a bunch when it was discontinued. My brothers, my dad, we had cases of this stuff just sitting in pantries, waiting to be used. I finally used my last bottle of this stuff in the last year. It's like 12 years old. There was no way. I've been like hoarding it, just waiting to like savor the last bit of it. And I used it up, but there's no way. It's 12 years old. I'm not throwing it away. I'm still eating it. Now I had to use a lot more of it and eat a lot more
Right.
of it. But it's one of those things. It doesn't. It's not going bad. It just loses a little intensity of flavor. But yeah, 12-year-old seasoning marinade, still ate
So
it.
two things on that. One, I am down to the third to last bottle of salt and vinegar wing shake, which is not something I'm looking forward to running out of. But even though they discontinued it, if it's that good, couldn't we bring it in as a custom?
Potentially, yeah. As long as there's nothing super special about it that requires an extra minimum. Normal minimums are 100 pounds, so that equates to like 60 cases of
But
shakers.
this is wet, it sounds like. Is this dry or is it wet?
Wait, oh wait, no. Are you talking about the
Yeah,
Southwest
yeah, I'm not
marinade or
talking
your
about, yes, the Southwest, not the salt and vinegar.
the Southwest liquids different? I don't know. I don't remember what their minimums are on liquids, but
Right.
their minimums on liquids are higher. Liquids are harder to deal
Yeah.
with.
No, I mean,
Um,
I loved the salt and vinegar wing shake. I loved I think it was just a wing shake, but not enough to get 10 cases of it. So,
if you want more of that, by the way, I think there is still some in the retail store on the
oh,
clearance
I will
shelf.
go grab
It
that immediately.
it won't say it's in stock. Anytime it's on the clearance shelf, we take it out of stock. But yeah, if there's something up there, you better
Oh,
go
I'll
grab it.
grab every one of those. I love that stuff. It's amazing.
There's also garlic romano up there, but I
Still
still
have
have like
enough.
3 cases at home,
I've got
so I'm good for.
over, I've got a case and maybe like a bottle of that. Because really, at this point, the only thing I put it on is popcorn. I don't eat that much popcorn anymore. So.
I actually ran out of my roasted ringneck seasoning, the Walton's PF QF mashup stuff, and I keep forgetting to bring home more. But normally, like my wife, when she's doing dinner stuff, she puts that in instead of salt. That's I mean the main seasoning we use for everything, and so we didn't have that. So I've been back on garlic romano kick for the last several days to a week here, just because I don't have my roasted ringneck rub. So
So for
I'm
those
just garlic on
who
everything.
don't know, Austin has a very strong salt. I don't know what you would even call it. Preference isn't strong enough. He he
Tolerance.
puts more salt products on meat than anyone else I know would not even just want, could tolerate. It is amazing to watch you salt a piece of meat.
If you don't tell people about the amount of salt in it, they'll agree. I mean, when it was a couple podcasts ago, we were talking about what I did for pulled pork and how I made that, and I think what did you calculate that I used like 4 times the amount of
Yes.
seasoning that I was supposed
4
to?
times. No.
Everyone
Hold
said
on,
it was
hold
the
on.
best pulled pork they'd ever have.
That was just the injection. That's before we factor in the fact that you used 6 shakers to 4 pork butts.
Yeah,
That's absolutely.
that sounds like the right
It
proportions
does
to me.
not sound like the right proportions. Absolutely not. And real quick, before we go on, there was a seasoning that used to be talked about right at the beginning of when I started working here. And Allie brought it up more than anyone else, your sister. It was like butter
Butter-flavored
sprinkles. That's another one that I'm surprised hasn't been brought back in some manner, considering how much it was talked about.
I would be tempted to bring it back just because, I mean, people will notice this eventually, especially people who are local customers and in our store because they see more of it and they buy more of it. But some of the specialty seasonings that we sell from like competition barbecue teams and places like that, I discontinued like 60, 80 of them. I have a new magic number in my head for how many of something we need to sell in a year, and just too many of those things aren't selling enough, and so and they're priced really high too. Those places like that, they're coming to well, they're buying from somebody who's buying from somebody and selling back to them and then selling to us and then selling to a customer. And there's too many people trying to get a margin in there that we sell an Excalibur shaker for $5, $4.99. Other things from competition, some of those competition barbecue teams can end up being for the same size shaker, $12.99.
Right.
I mean, it's just because there's 2-3 extra people in there trying to get margin, and it just it's hard to sell a lot of it because it's so much more expensive. Some people really like it because it's just different, but I think we just added a whole bunch of new stuff from Excalibur. Actually, there was like 8, 10, 12, I don't know, different shakers.
I think it ended up being 10 without the special order stuff.
Yeah, that I actually feel bad. I didn't even know that they had in stock seasonings.
So, if he hadn't
but we
said,
found out.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, last podcast we were lucky enough to get 15 minutes with Bob and
Mike.
John.
No, Mike and John.
Sorry, Mike and John from Excalibur. We got to talk to them about a little bit of what makes Excalibur special. Really great conversation. But on the way out, they said something about a blackberry pepper. I'm like, well, we don't have that for sure. So that kind of sent us down the rabbit hole of what else do they have that we don't stock. So long story short, we have now fixed it so we stock all of their shakers. So in the next couple of weeks, there should be a bunch of new things on waltonsinc.com. Or should we just start saying waltons.com now?
Yeah.
On waltons.com. It goes to the same place. But a bunch of new Excalibur shakers.
So yeah, we've got more Excalibur stuff. We just added a few things from Spiceology recently. We've had for a while like the Terrapin Ridge Farm stuff, which theirs is more like sauces and jams and stuff like that. But I think we'll probably end up having more from those 3 players, mainly Excalibur. But with their new stuff, and I think we will probably start doing more of our own private label. Whatever seasoning we want, it'll be Walton's blah blah blah, to kind of fill up for the void that I created by discontinuing like 8 different things. So over the next year, I'd expect to see quite a bit there. We've got 2 that I don't know. Leave it up to you, John, if you want to announce those or not. But we got 2 new kind of Waltons, kind of something else shakers that are coming out soonish.
Soonish, if we can figure out the labeling. So we sent the labels over to Excalibur. They responded with these new requirements. So we're working back and forth. But We are working with BHA, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, on actually quite a few new products. Two of those are going to be seasonings. There's going to be Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. There's one that's designed specifically for wild game, and there's one that's more of like a garlic pepper style. So we have the labels mostly figured out, seasonings all figured out. So we should bring those to market in the next month, hopefully, somewhere around that. To go along with that,
Well,
we'll also...
it might be a little longer because our lead times just got extended from 3 weeks.
Okay. So in the next few months, we'll have that. We're also working on a Backcountry Hunters and Anglers and Walton's flexible cutting mat that looks awesome, and a shirt that looks even better. That shirt is going to be phenomenal, especially for everybody will like it, but people in Kansas specifically will see something that they will really like.
Yeah, it's even if you're not from Kansas, it's so cool of a shirt. I think we'll sell quite a few. I know we're going to give away a ton. That we'll probably we'll probably give our shorts away on that one, but it'll be sweet. I hope to see a lot of people out wearing some of that new stuff.
It's good advertising, and BHA is an easy company to get behind.
Yeah. So last thing I got, and then I'll turn it over to Jon for some of the other stories he's got. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Rafter W on Meatgistics, just because I was going through some of the stuff on Meatgistics and saw a few different posts, a couple in particular, that I then realized were all from him. And he has been posting some awesome looking stuff. A lot of it's been to the "What did everyone cook today?" That topic, which is huge. So if you haven't been on the "What does everyone cook today?" Topic, check that one out, because it'll make you hungry just looking at things. But he looks like he is a phenomenal cook, maybe even a chef. Like I'm gonna have to get this guy's phone number and invite him over to my house to do dinner, and then be like, "Oh, hey,
you told me I had to stop telling people they could sleep in my basement if we did the Meatgistics meetup. You can't invite people over. If I can't do it, you can't do it."
We'll have to have him like come into the studio at work and cook something. It just looks amazing. But not only him, but I mean, kind of shout out to everybody for what they post on Meatgistics. It's incredible what people make, and it's hard to look at anything on Meatgistics and not be hungry and want to make what everyone else has made on there. So that is all I got for news stories for the day. What else?
Well, real quick on that, I started a very strict no looking at what is everyone cooking today before 10 a.m. policy a long time ago. I break that occasionally, but too many times I'd show up and the first thing I would look at would be this unbelievably good looking cut of meat or something, and it would just immediately make me hungry. So I refuse to look at it before a certain time. I break that all the time now, but it did help for a while. So a couple of stories, not actually that many. The first one is Biden administration is continuing to look at the meat industry for rising grocery bills. There's an article from the Washington Post. Headline is, "As meat prices continue to rise, Biden administration takes aim at big chicken." Now, we've done a bunch on this in the last couple of months, and probably need to do something as far as a more in-depth investigation into, I see you moving your USDA guy, into how much meat has actually gone up. Because when you look at the reported numbers from it's not even the USDA. When you look at the reported numbers, they say beef has gone up about 4% in the last 8 months. I don't think that's totally accurate, but it's got to be somewhere in the realm. My grocery bill in the last 8 months has gone up by close to 40%. Like the majority of my 50% increase has been in the last 8 months. So I don't think it's fair to point at just the meat industry for this. I specifically don't think it's fair to point at chicken because I eat a ridiculous amount of chicken. My wife eats an insane amount of chicken. And chicken for the same package that we've got has gone up from like $9.50 to like in the $10.50 range. There's been no enormous increase in just raw, uncooked chicken breast. Now, if we're talking about more processed chicken, yes, those prices have gone up a little bit, but that is a separate thing. You don't want to look at Tyson for that. You want to look at the processors down the line. So I don't think that's fair. I will say this. I like the fact that they're looking at the biggest players in the industry as who is responsible for increased prices. But I don't think it's fair to look at just the meat industry. Personally, I think it's probably part of their overall agenda. And they've stated this many times to get people to eat less meat. Right? They have said that numerous times. They think people should go away from a meat-heavy diet. So I guess they want people to eat more bread, more grains. Let's all just continue to get fat, I guess. Right?
Being fat's not too bad. Not bad,
right? Yeah. It's hard to speak bad about getting fatter as I am putting on weight constantly.
Just to poke you a little bit, are you sure that your grocery bill has gone up that much, or are you just that much bigger and eating that much
Fair
more?
enough. Fair enough. No, honestly, the biggest problem is my wife is an amazing baker. She makes unbelievable cookies, and it's not even the cookies that I eat. It's what's left over from what she puts in the cookies that I always just like manage to find. I'm like, oh, these look good. And the worst one is Heath bar, like they're these like little crushed Heath bars, and they make amazing little handfuls. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Next one is something that I actually kind of struggled with whether or not I wanted to talk about, because I've said it a few times on here. I have a friend who is the manager of a local Hormel bacon plant. Super nice guy, great family. Came down here from Minnesota specifically to run this plant. Was nice enough to take me on a tour of his plant. I got to see bacon production at the absolute maximum level. I mean, they have an insane facility that has only grown since I got to tour it like 4 or 5 years ago. But Hormel is jumping into the plant-based meat market. They're partnering with a company called Better Meat, and I don't want to talk about too much about it, but I do want to read this one quote because it just kind of stuck with me. It says, "It's critical that we give our consumers choices. Plant-based products are one of those choices." I don't know how to take that. Like, why is that critical that they provide plant-based meat options?
I think it's critical to them because they don't want a chance that they get left out of a market that shifts and they go from being a big boy in one market to now they're a nobody. Now, like we've talked about in the past, that when we've tried product A and product B side by side, one's meat, one's a meat alternative, the meat tastes better. I mean, and people, they try to make fake bacon look like bacon and try to taste like bacon because bacon's really good. I think at the end of the day, if you let consumers choose, the vast majority of them are still going to choose meat because it's just better. Some people will choose an alternative, and that's fine. But I think that's okay. If people want to choose something else, that's great. As long as it's a choice, and the big players like that don't just go, yeah, we're just not making bacon anymore. We're only making fake bacon. then there'd be a revolt in the U.S. right there, armed revolt against the big meat processors out there that stop making
But
bacon.
this is why it's always good for us to have these conversations, because I look at it from such like an not conspiracy theory, but like from a negative aspect. Like I look at it from them looking down the road and seeing something coming and being like, we have to have this so that we have a product to put on the shelf. But you are probably right there. That makes a lot more sense why they would use that verbiage. So,
Okay, I want you to just write that down and remember it and repeat it often. You were right there. That makes a lot of sense.
No. That's not fair. There's an insane number of times I've made it very clear how often you've been right in a lot of things that I thought you were crazy on.
I'm just harassing you. It's just a perfect little piece to pull out there and poke at you with.
Fair enough. All right. So the last one I've got, the last one I've got to talk about is lab-grown beef. What should it be called? The New Republic has an article out there talking about what lab-grown beef is actually going to be labeled as. You and I have differing views on part of this, at least. And we've probably talked about it too much, where I don't want to bore the users again. But you don't want people who are making what's not like farm-raised beef jumping on the meat bandwagon, like being able to benefit from all the hard work the meat industry has done at marketing bacon, tri-tips, all those cuts. And I agree with that. But I think it'll be really interesting to see what they come up with to call this lab-grown beef. I've said for a long time, I have no ethical, moral, or anything else issue with lab-grown beef. However, because you have somewhat swayed me to your side, if we start seeing lab-grown beef marketed the same and packaged the same and labeled the same as regular beef, I will have a problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's too many issues with the way things have to be labeled in the meat industry now to not put those same types of requirements on somebody else. But I mean, like if you have some sirloins and some ribeyes, you can't package the sirloins and call them ribeyes. You have to call something what it is.
Sure.
So I don't think whatever they decide to call it, they can't just call it meat. I mean, it has to be something that differentiates it clearly as something
if
different.
I'm growing ribeyes in the lab, it's still a ribeye.
You call it a ribeye style, or you could use ribeye in it, but there has to be a differentiation to make sure people know it's not meat, it's not a ribeye. That's my opinion, though.
Okay, so here's an interesting difference between us. I feel like if there's a visual difference between the two products, but the name is very similar, people will see that and know that it's not what it is. But you're saying if there's no visual difference, but the name is different, like ribeye style, you think that'll clue people in. I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I think what it looks like is more important than what it's named, and whether or not you're going to trick people into buying it, thinking it's something.
We should just ultimately give me final authority over what stuff's called, because I think you just call it like ribeye style fake meat. Throw fake right in front of meat. Use style. It's perfect.
Fake meat.
Be a great marketing technique too, because people would look at it and be like, "What?"
It would grab attention. It would be negative attention, but it'd be attention. I'm really
negative.
I'm really interested to see what they come up with, because they can't call it lab grown. They can't call it cultured. They can't do that unless, we've talked about this too much in the past too, but unless it offers a clear benefit in either pricing, taste, or even just environmental impact, which it doesn't do any of those things yet, people are not going to switch, nor should they. So I don't know, but it's going to be a major industry issue over the coming years, because there's been an insane amount of money thrown, and that's what I wanted to talk about. You said that it will not happen, that it's allowed to be able to call a ribeye or whatever. With the amount of money that's thrown, you don't think that there'll be very expensive lobbyists throwing around lots of money in Washington trying to push for them to be able to call it that?
As it stands now, no. I mean, that whole industry is pretty big, but the meat industry right now, they're bigger.
But it's also the meat industry who's getting into the lab-grown meat industry.
Yeah, to an extent. Some of it is old players from the meat industry, some is new, but it may come down to which one's easier for people to make and what's the bigger profit center for companies. Because if it's a historically a meat industry company that is getting into the plant-based and fake meat and cultured lab-grown stuff, what are they going to make more money on? I mean, that's probably what they'll push at the end of the day. It's all, are we in the red and black, and what's our profit? So,
yeah, I mean, that is probably what will drive it, as it really should. And let free markets sort it out.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't just stop there. It goes back to what you said earlier about giving consumers a choice. If it just goes to people saying, "Oh, we're only making this, and we're gonna make more money off of it," that may or may not work out exactly. It's more of a, hey, there's both out there. Let consumers choose.
Right, but a truly free market would sort that out, because there would be enough of a demand for the original that it would go back to that. So a truly free market.
Yeah,
that's the rub.
Yeah, one could argue that we're not in a truly free market anymore, though.
Many could argue that. So before we get ourselves into trouble, we should probably sign off. That was it. That's all I had. You had anything else?
The only other thing I got is, which side? Beautiful, beautiful painting in the background was painted by yours truly. I just wanted to throw that out there. I have an artistic
You don't have
side.
any talent. Bring that closer.
Yeah.
Down and back toward you. Awesome. Now down. There you go. Wow, that's pretty good. That is pretty good, Austin. Well done. Did you do that at one of those like painting party type things? Is it fun?
Yeah, they're actually pretty cool. So yeah, I didn't technically do that on my own. Like, they tell you, they don't do it for you, but they tell you, oh, go here, draw this, do that. So
yeah, whatever. Still good. We every Christmas we hang up. My wife went to one of those once and did like a reindeer, and we put it up every year. I have zero artistic talent, like literally none. I can see something in my mind, and that's really quick. We'll take a tangent. You know, Elon Musk's like Neuralink. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I will get it if Patrick will get it, so I can port into his mind what it looks like in my mind. Like, this is what I want. That right there, because I can't describe it, I can't draw it, I can't do anything, but I can see it.
So speaking, since we're on weird tangents, and whoever's with us, I'm sorry you have to listen to our rants. I was trying to explain to my wife what goes on inside my head, because my head is it's crazy. I told her, I was listening to Sandstorm the other day. If you know what Sandstorm is.
Of course I know that.
And I was like, that's the inside of my head.
Wow.
Just going around back and forth.
That's not a calm, relaxing place to be at all.
No.
All right, buddy. Hopefully, I'll see you at the end of the day tomorrow after we both get a negative test. If not, I'll see you in 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is now.
I think, don't hold me to it. I think it's 7 days after a test now. Yeah. And as long as in the last 24 hours of the 7 days, you don't have fever and some certain symptoms.
Is that from exposure or from when you tested positive?
Test.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, honestly, I don't have it. I don't think you have it. We're both fine.
Yeah. Well, we should be back in the office tomorrow.
Sounds good, buddy.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. See you
next
guys.
Week.
Thanks for checking out the Meatgistics podcast. To shop everything but the meat, head on over to waltonsinc.com. And to get your meat processing questions answered by experts and enthusiasts alike, head on over to our online community at meatgistics.com. Walton's, everything but the meat.